This whole thing is not just for Harry to be surrounded by this ring of steel. He also claims he can't bring his family over. People may take, a view that he's almost blackmailing the RAVEC or the royal household or
his
the
father.
king.
I think he is blackmailing the king, saying you'll never see your grandchildren again.
Emotionally
emotionally
blackmailing
blackmailing them.
I don't think Beatrice and Eugenie had a choice. Andrew said to them, "You have to go."
Do you think?
Yes, I absolutely, really do
Tell me
think
more.
that. Because he wants to keep a foot in.
Meghan and Harry are supposed to be standing on their own 2 feet and earning their own money, which is perfectly acceptable. If they can sell a pot of jam for £51, then best of luck to them.
Welcome to Royal Exclusive, and we are all back in the office at the start of a new year. This week we discuss who has dethroned Princess Anne as the busiest royal. We ask, is Meghan's global jam empire working, or is her job loss of products hiding a secret? However, we also question why no one seems to want to work for the Sussexes, and as we await a final decision on Harry's armed security, is it job done, or is everyone getting a little bit carried away? I'm Matt Wilkinson, The Sun's royal editor, and joining me this week to discuss all this and more is Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine Ingrid Seward and former royal correspondent for The Sun, Charles Ray. Welcome to you both. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The sources close to Harry seem to be indicating that they think that it's a done deal, that RAVEC are going to give Harry his armed, taxpayer-funded security when the decision is announced this month. Are they getting carried away? Do you think he might win this case?
Well, there's a chance he'll win the case. I'm very much opposed to him winning the case. In any case, I don't think he should get taxpayer-funded royal security when he's over here so little in any case. I think he has proved that he doesn't deserve it. I mean, he keeps talking about this one stalker, this one female stalker that's got within, 10, 20 feet of him, that was stopped by his own bodyguards. We've had people climb gates at Buckingham Palace and, even years ago, sitting on the Queen's bed. I mean, that's a real stalker scenario. This is nothing to him. And let's also not forget that in his book Spare, he was the one who was boasting about killing so many Taliban when he was serving. And I've got nothing but respect for him when he was serving. But, if you want to have security, you don't need to boast these sort of things at all.
I mean, one of the issues here is that the story that's come out a couple of days ago was suggesting that it's a done deal.
Well, it certainly isn't a done deal, is it, Matt? We know that. I mean, as Charlie says, Harry is absolutely obsessed about security. And that was one of his deals when he and Meghan decided to quit the royal family. He was absolutely insistent that he should still have his security. And then his book comes out, and as Charlie said, and he talks about killing the Taliban. And of course he's got threats against his life. I think that most people in his situation do have threats. We know the royals have always had threats against their lives. But you can't live in a sort of secure cage. You've got to be out there meeting people. And he's not a working royal, so he doesn't actually really verify having this security. It's his own personal wish.
We're expecting a decision from RAVEC, which is it's quite a new term that we only found out a couple of years ago. We didn't essentially know what RAVEC was. We learned all about it now. It's a committee of experts, of police, of government officials. And one of the claims that have come out recently from the Sussexes is that they fear that the royal household could scupper the decision, that they could step in and stop RAVEC from giving Harry his security. Is that plausible?
Well, no, it's not. I mean, RAVEC is a specialised committee from the Home Office in any case, and the royal household have an advisor that sits on RAVEC. Now, his job is to sit there and listen to what they're discussing. Their job is to discuss who gets royal protection, who doesn't, all these sort of matters that need to be discussed. And that advisor then reports back to the king as to what the decision is. So there is no way that the king or any other member of the royal family can put their 2 pence worth in and scupper anything, or say, let him have the security.
So why are they floating this idea? Is it a case of if they do lose this case and RAVEC refuse to give the security, do they have an out and say, oh, well, it was the royal household that they
that's
would
what
let
they're
it
going
happen?
to say, isn't it? But Harry wrote to the Home Secretary as a personal plea, and of course he'll blame the royal household if he doesn't get what he wants. But it doesn't mean he doesn't have any security. No. It means he doesn't have, the outriders security, which I think we've discussed before, which is like 6 motorbike outriders sort of on 24-hour alert and going through all those red lights. That's what he wants. He isn't just left when he arrives at Heathrow. No. He does have a security in the car with him. And if he stays in a royal palace, he has full security. So it's, he has got the choice. We're not just throwing him to the wolves out there.
And he brings with him his own security, which is unarmed. And I think the rule is that he's got to give a little bit of notice when he's coming over here. He can't just pop over. He's got to give a little bit of notice. So the Metropolitan Police security outfit will then assess what likely threats there may well be. If there isn't any, he's OK. Now, he's all right with that. I talked about the stalker earlier on. Well, it was one of his own bodyguards that prevented the stalker from getting anywhere near him. So he doesn't need to have a paid-for by taxpayers gun-operated security team. Well,
one thing that strikes me is this whole thing is not just for Harry to be surrounded by this ring of steel. He also claims he can't bring his family over, so he won't bring Archie and Lilibet over. People may take, a view that he's almost blackmailing the RAVEC or the royal household or
his
the
father,
king,
really.
or pushing them into this decision, saying, well, if you don't give it to me, I'm not bringing my grandchildren over. Is that acceptable?
No.
It does sound like that. It does actually, but it does sound like that, doesn't it, Charlie? Yeah. But we don't know for sure that it is like that.
Charlie, do you think it's acceptable?
I don't think it's acceptable what he's saying. I mean, let's not forget, Harry is living in one of the most violent countries in the world, and he's accusing Britain of being violent. Yes, we have crime, but we don't have any crime like they have in America. And, for him to turn around, and I think he is blackmailing the king, saying you'll never see your grandchildren again.
Emotionally
blackmailing them, saying if you don't let me have, gun guard, then you're not going to see your grandchildren, which is absolutely ridiculous. I've said this to you before, Matt. I do not believe that Meghan's ever going to come back to this country ever again, under any circumstances. And it'll be really surprised if RAVEC give him the gun guards that he wants. Will Meghan get on a plane to come over here? I doubt it very much, which means that if Meghan's not coming over here, the children won't come over here.
Well, surely she can't stop him from bringing his own children to see their grandfather.
Well, no, but...
Especially Archie,
There'd be no excuse if he doesn't... If he gets his armed security, there's no excuse to bring Archie and Lilibet, is there?
But I agree with Charlie, and there's no real reason. But this country dislikes... Most people in this country dislike Meghan intensely. I think we know that now. And not everybody, but it's also the same in America. I've talked to a lot of Americans, and the reason they don't like her is because they feel that she was very instrumental in splitting Harry from his family. And look at her relationship or non-relationship with her own father.
Absolutely. She's torn
Americans
apart
don't understand that because they're so family-orientated.
She's torn apart 2 families. There's no doubt about that. She hasn't even... apart from this so-called letter that she sent her father when he was in hospital having his leg amputated, there's not been any contact. She's not made a phone call to him. And it was ridiculous for her to say that she'd lost his number or deleted his number or whatever. It's absolutely stupid.
Let's just talk briefly about opportunities maybe for the children to come over. It's going to be, in April, it's going to be what would have been, the 100th birthday of late Queen Elizabeth II. So there will be family events, there will be commemorations, that we're waiting for a full kind of list of things, but there will be an opportunity for the family to all get together and talk about Queen Elizabeth II. That's an opportunity. Or when the King goes to America, which we expect, same month in April, he'll go, hopefully, not been announced, but we're waiting for it. It's all been sorted for a state visit. He's in America. There's a couple of opportunities now for Harry to either bring his children over or the King to see the grandchildren over in the United States.
Well, he won't see them in the United States because those trips and visits are so tightly organised. There's no way you can sort of be in New York and decide to pop down to Los Angeles. I mean, people here perhaps forget that it's like a 6-hour flight from New York to LA. And I mean, it would really be up to Harry to take the kids up to New York or Washington, wherever his father might be. Right. But I don't suppose, I mean, Charlie, you know about this too, is it? Those schedules are so tight.
They are. I mean, there's very little downtime for any state visit in any case. But, you know, that would be a very, very big thing for Harry to do, is to fly over from Montecito with Archie and Lilibet to see the King. And I'm sure the King, if that was possible, would be able to fit in, you know, a time to see his grandchildren. But I'm with Ingrid. They're so tight, these things, it's almost impossible to organise it.
Well, I'd love to get our viewers' thoughts on this. Our viewers are clever. They know all the issues and they've got lots of thoughts. I'd love to get their thoughts on why, or sorry, if Harry will win his case, or should he win his case, and when we might see the grandchildren meeting the King in the UK, possibly. As I say, Queen's 100th birthday, there's an opportunity.
But the King may, of course, want it to be completely private, because of course it will be a huge thing. And you know, you can't deny it. It's a great story, and it's a nice story. It's a sort of feel-good story. So it's not going to be a quiet little meeting, which is obviously what the King would like.
Well, he's got a lot on his plate at the moment, King Charles. And we know in December, he one off an announcement, he said that, you know, he'd be turning down or lowering his cancer treatment this year. The good news that as he described, which is great, which is brilliant. But have you seen these figures in 2025? Okay, last year, we always have a list of the royal engagements. Who's been the hardest working royal? You know, and we list, I think there's 10 working royals at the moment. We list how many engagements they've done. It's usually, or almost always, Princess Anne. And she gets so many plaudits for being the hardest working royals. But have you seen that King Charles carried out more engagements than Princess Anne last year? Are you surprised at that?
Well, no, because he's the king, so a lot of his work is involved in being head of state and being monarch. I mean, if you look at the royal engagements, you see that the King was meeting the president of this, and so I mean that goes on. 3
internal state visits.
Yes, which is unusual because normally we only have 2. So there's a lot going on, and I think he just wants to get through the day doing as much as he can. As Queen Camilla says, he's a complete workaholic.
Do you think over Christmas, Charlie, they sat down and they look at this list, or they talk about this list, and Princess Anne looks over at her brother and say, "You've taken my title."
Taken my title.
Probably, yes. I think that's the sort of. They'd probably make a joke about it.
Yeah.
I can see Princess Anne making a sort of rather witty aside, can't you?
I agree, but I also think as well that the King, you know, having battled through the cancer, and, you know, as we now know, he's decreased his treatment. I think he wants to show that he's there and he's working hard. So I'm not. It doesn't surprise me that the King is top of the list. And as Ingrid said, you know, the monarch is should always be ahead on it all in any case.
Right, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, because for many years the late Queen, you know, wasn't doing so many engagements because she was quite old and confirmed. So this is the natural position. The King should be the hardest. We'll have a look at some of the figures. I was quite surprised actually. In 3rd and 4th was the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. So Edward was 3rd with 313, Sophie was 4th with 235, Camilla 5th, and then we go down, Prince William was 7th with 202. In 10th, which is effectively last place of the working royals, was the Princess of Wales on 68. Does she have to defend herself from any criticism for not carrying out as many engagements as the rest?
Not in my view. I mean, this is a lady who's been, you know, battling cancer as well. She's got a family. I know they've got servants and people all around them and everything else, but she's still, you know, she's still a working mother, and she's still looking after the family as well. They've just moved into a new home as well, so there's all that as well. Just because you're royal doesn't mean you don't have the same stresses and strains as normal people have.
You don't have to worry about a mortgage.
You don't have to worry about a mortgage.
Not at the moment.
That is also true. You never know what may happen. But I think the fact that she does so much is a good thing, and I think she should pace herself as well. I mean, I think we've discussed this before. That see William and Catherine anyway as the sort of real superstars of all. I mean, you just got to look at the various engagements of all that list. And when they turn up at a job, you know, it is 10, 12 deep. It's back to the old Princess Diana days.
Yes, it is.
You know, there's no question. They are the superstars of the royal family and the future.
I noticed, Charlie, probably you did, that at Christmas, when we were watching the royals come out of church at Sandringham, I mean, William and Catherine were there for a long time, much longer than anyone else. And the children...
Children was brilliant.
And they were brilliant. And it must be difficult for them because the people they're meeting, they've never seen before. And, you know what children are like. I mean, they did brilliantly. And the rest of the royal family toddled off probably to have a large drink before lunch. And they were still there talking to the crowd.
Yes, that's true.
So when they go in for a job, they really do it brilliantly.
I can tell you, it's like, because I enjoy doing it, but I do a lot of Prince and Princess of Wales engagements, you know, for the Royal Rota, Charlie. And these events that Catherine and William do, they're just huge. There is so much packed into that 45 minutes or that hour. That, you know, there's a meet and greet at the beginning, there's conversations, there's off-diary pieces where they go and meet members of the public and get bunches of flowers. They often do a speech, they often unveil something. They talk about impact. And the jobs that Catherine and William do, I feel, have, although there's only 68 for Catherine and 202 for William, they have a greater impact because they are the superstars, but there's more packed into them. And you made a very good point, Charlie made a very good point, that she's also a mother as well, whereas Queen Camilla, although she's a mother and a grandmother, she doesn't have those kind of as much duties as Princess of Wales does at home. We need to take that into consideration.
And didn't the Princess of Wales very early on, before she had the cancer problem, or the disaster of the cancer, she did say that she and William were going to do engagement slightly differently, and they were going to concentrate harder on various things and their various projects, rather than doing masses and masses of them.
Yeah, not spread themselves too thinly.
That's what she said.
They wanted to concentrate on...
This was a couple of years ago.
They don't have to throw bottles of champagne against a new ship. You know, that's not what they're there for. I mean, they're there, like his mother did, is to meet the people and, you know, try and give them some hope for their future. Because it really is, the prince and the paupers that they meet. And everything that they do with all the charities and everything, look at them being at the Passage, bringing George at the Passage. Fantastic pictures, and a great visit. And it's just... It makes the normal people give them that little bit special extra.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point, Charlie, because...
I'm glad we're all agreeing today.
We're all agreeing. We're all agreeing, Matt.
We're not finished yet.
So they are following. I mean, you hate to, they are following in Diana's sort of magical footsteps here, aren't they? Because that's what she did. She bent down and talked to old people and really engaged with them in a way that it's probably quite hard for the rest of the royal family to do.
And Diana, let's not forget, concentrated on a handful of charities and institutions that she dealt with. There was about 6 or 7 of them, and that she put everything she did. There was a time that Diana used to get criticised by the royal household for not reading the briefings because she was at some boring old job. But when she started really looking at the jobs that she cared about, she was soaking all the knowledge up. I mean, she was an expert on landmines. I mean, she could deal with any highfalutin politician in the world on a landmine, and she'd have a great point of view on it.
I will bow to your experience here because you were there when Diana was out, doing his engagements. But do you therefore see similarities between Prince and Princess of Wales and late Diana?
Yeah. I do, but I think that what Diana said to me very near the end of her life was she still gets very nervous going out and meeting people because she doesn't know. And she said, I don't know what they've read in the papers, because everyone used to call papers then. Yeah. And she just said it still sort of bothered her. And I don't think it bothers William and Catherine.
No, I don't think it bothers them in the same way.
I don't think it bothers them in the same way.
Diana suffered from a lack of self-confidence at times.
She was very insecure.
She was, but once she got into the room, once she was talking to another mother, there was no princess and a pauper. It was 2 mums talking together. It was, I've seen it many times.
And she also had that brilliant idea of talking about what she'd seen on television.
Yeah.
Which, so she'd talk about EastEnders and say, did you see what happened? And so she immediately engaged with people on a sort of general level.
And Catherine, I think it was during the engagement interview, I remember she talked about being a swan, where she was like, oh, all calm on top of the surface, but the feet are frantically, panicking underneath the water, but she has to kind of hold this. And I see that. I see that when she works, she does look a little bit nervous, like Diana does. Probably inside she's very nervous, but outside she's very calm.
Well, you're very fortunate, Matt, that you get. I mean, you're one of the very small group on the Royal Rota, so you do get close, and you do actually see with your own eyes exactly what's going on.
And it's lovely to talk about it as well. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm not that fortunate though, because this week I've been looking at Meghan's As Ever website as part of my job. Jam. Have you seen what's happening with her jam? So she set up this, obviously, As Ever. She's been selling jam. She's been selling all this produce. But there was a glitch on the website that someone found. I think they posted it on Reddit or posted it online, and they found that there were 137,000 of her signature fruit spread gift boxes, and these are packs of 3 of her famous jam. She said, "My jam is my jam." And so we've looked into this, and sources close to the company say that it's not a case that she has 137,000 jars plus lots of other flour sprinkles and honey, etc. It's not that they're just sitting there kicking up a stink and not being sold. She actually apparently had bought 1 million jars, and that's what she's got left. She's sold 860,000 units. And I talk about, unfortunately, I have to look at this kind of stuff, but this seems like it could be a success, or is this just the art of spin?
I think that the trouble is with Meghan's cooking, I call it her cooking job, is that we don't, is it jam, or is it sprinkles, or is it honey, or is it wine? She's not really focused on one thing, so we don't really know what Meghan does, except, prance around the kitchen looking beautiful. We don't really know what she does, and I think I don't think it's focused enough. So maybe she obviously, if you say so, she has sold a lot.
Well, it's not what I say so. It's the information that we've been given is that this is a very successful business,
but
and this is what these figures show.
It's Netflix behind it. I mean, they don't want to be, stuck with thousands and thousands of pots of jam that don't sell. I mean, they're a very smart company, and they've put their weight behind this. So I do think it probably will be a success. Eventually.
I find it a bit strange in all the years that I've covered, members of the royal family. I'm sitting here now talking about jam, given the world problems, with Venezuela and the Ukraine and everything else, and we are discussing jam. I'm like you. I'm not sure that it is. I think it is a success. I think she's doing reasonably well. If you look at those figures, of the 100,000 that she's not sold, there's 800,000 that she has sold. And
just to interrupt, if we're talking 860,000 units, if we believe them, and they're selling for £31 or $42 a pot, that's millions of pounds.
That is millions and millions of money, and that's what she wants. Now, I mean, so she's doing very well as a businesswoman. She's not doing so well in other spheres of her life, but she's doing very well as a businesswoman. And I agree with Ingrid. Netflix is behind it. They tend not to go for losers. So if she's making money, Netflix will be very, very happy.
Well, it's worth pointing out, sorry, Ingrid.
Don't you remember, Charlie, when the Prince of Wales went into this with his biscuits, his Duchy Originals, and they were a huge success. And then he got them into Waitrose, and they really took off, and now he's sold the brand. So Meghan isn't the only one.
No, he's not.
And Diana used to laugh about those Duchy of Cornwall biscuits and say they were like eating cardboard. But they've done very, very well. And this, of course, but the trouble is with Meghan, the King did it for charity. The King, who was Prince of Wales. Meghan hasn't mentioned any charity, but of course it really belongs to Netflix. So it's actually quite a complicated business.
It is.
Deal.
Well, yeah, it's worth mentioning that if we're talking like 20-odd million pounds of sales, Netflix would get a large chunk of that, and she has to reinvest it as well.
But let's not forget as well, as Ingrid's right, the Prince of Wales did it, he sold it, it was for charity and everything else. Meghan and Harry are supposed to be standing on their own 2 feet and earning their own money, which is perfectly acceptable. And so if they can sell a pot of jam for £51, then best of luck to them.
But then, Charlie, why do they set themselves up as these amazing philanthropic couple if they're not giving any of...
No, that's true.
I mean, apparently Harry did give a lot of money that he made from his book Spare to charity, and no one took much notice of that. But Meghan's is so out there on television. I think some of it should say some of this is going to whatever charity. I'm amazed she didn't insist on that.
Well, you'd have thought that would have been a great PR point to score on her behalf, to say I'm giving X percent to some charity that she loves. There must be one somewhere.
Or that loves her.
Or that loves her.
It'd be interesting to find out what our viewers think. Is this a successful business? Do we trust the figures here that it is actually working? And I'd like to know if anyone's actually bought any of this jam, because if we're talking 860,000 units, that's a hell of a lot of people in America. It's only for sale in America. But they are... The plan is now, because you can only buy it in America, the plan is now to go global, gradually. So you could only buy her jam in the United States or North America, I think, at the moment. Soon it'll be Australia. Soon it will be France. Soon it will be the UK. And she's going to have to go and buy more jars of jam to cater for what she expects is going to be this order.
Or Netflix will do a deal with a huge supermarket in each country. I mean, it's not a new thing, this celebrity.
No.
I think it was Paul Newman that did the first. Do you remember Paul Newman's salad dressing?
Salad dressing.
I think he was the first one I remember doing it. That shows us up, doesn't it, Charlie? Matt wasn't even born, probably.
And for those...
Paul who?
Yeah,
Paul
absolutely. For those listening in, Paul Newman was a very, very famous actor.
Yeah.
And gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Well, you may think so.
A lot of celebrities do it. George Clooney had Casamigos tequila. He sold it for £1 billion. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And, you know, as I say, it appears soon we'll be getting Meghan's jam in Australia and the UK and everywhere. More Meghan news. Why can't they keep hold of their staff? Over Christmas, I revealed that Meredith Maines, she was a CCO. She got this new position of head of their communications operations. She left under a year. Wasn't quite 12 months. They also got rid of a PR company they were working with because that didn't work, and they're kind of reassessing their internal staff and who they work with. But also James Holt. Now, he was a top advisor. He's been there for years. He was there pre-Megxit, and he's quite a big deal to lose. And they've lost a lot of staff. We're talking 13, 14 PR staff since they became royals or since they got married. What's going on there?
I don't think they know what direction they're going. And I also think it's the difference between the American culture and the British culture. And I don't think... So you see some of the statements that are put out from Archwell, or whatever it's called now, the foundation, and they just, frankly, to us here, they're just gobbledygook. It's just a load of language that doesn't really say anything. And that is quite often the American PR way. They talk a lot, but at the end of it, you think, well, what was all that about? And I think that is part of the problem, because it doesn't translate here. And so then Harry and Meghan are saying, well, why aren't you doing our PR properly?
Must be a difficult job working for the Sussexes, because you're going to get negative press, just naturally, because they do a lot of things wrong. So it must be really difficult.
But
for people.
It's what we don't know, of course. What we don't really know is how many of these 14 were actually asked to leave, or how many left of their own accord for some other adventure in their own lives. We hark back to the allegations of Meghan's bullying when she was over here with members of staff, which we've never really reconciled with. But there were those allegations. So you would think that she's not exactly the easiest employer to work for. So I suspect that some of them have left because they had to leave because of the way she was acting. Others left because they had to move on.
And it's interesting, it wasn't only when she was a working royal, these allegations of being a difficult boss. Also had reports in the US, in US magazines, saying that, Duchess difficult, and saying that, she's walking around like a tyrant in high heels. I mean, these accusations have also come out in the US as well. We don't know what the situation is with Meredith and James, but it does look like They've lost 2 key members of staff. It could look to an outsider they're kind of lacking direction or trying to find, a new way
I do
forward.
think that it's probably difficult working for any member of the royal family. And like it or not, Harry still has that, that attitude to his life, even though he's not in it anymore.
Would you work for them?
I did actually once go for a job. I did.
Bombshell.
And I had an interview with Michael Pete.
Oh no, I mean Meghan and Harry.
Oh, Meghan and Harry. I thought you meant the royals.
No, would you pick up one of these jobs, Charlie?
No,
No.
a month for Sundays.
No.
No, we'd fall out within half an hour, I can assure you.
Yes, I think you would, Charlie.
No, you're a nice guy.
I am a nice guy, but we would fall out within
You're
half an hour.
too straight speaking.
Yeah.
Now, this is our first first Royal exclusive of the new year. So I just want to touch on a little bit that happened over Christmas that we haven't been able to cover on shows because we've not been filming. I was fascinated by Beatrice and Eugenie going to Sandringham because we were led to believe that both of them were going to stay away from Royal Lodge, they were going to stay away from Sandringham to avoid being seen like they're taking sides. However, they changed their minds and they went to Sandringham. They were standing on the steps outside of the church, smiling, happy with the King. Was it the right decision?
Yes, definitely. Sorry, Ingrid, but it was definitely the right decision to be with the King. If they're going to choose one or the other, it was the King all the way through. Look, I've got a lot of time for these girls, and I feel desperately sorry for them that they find themselves at the centre of attention with the controversies of both their parents. It must be terrible for them, but they have done the right things to go to go to Sandringham with the King. But they've got to be careful. I mean, Beatrice ended up doing a couple of jobs in Saudi Arabia, which is sort of mirrors what her father used to do and everything else. And I'm not suggesting she did anything wrong whatsoever, but she really needs to be really careful with the things that she does. Otherwise, she's going to be tarred with the same brush.
Big year for Beatrice and Eugenie, I predict.
I agree with Charlie, but I don't think Beatrice and Eugenie had a choice. Andrew said to them, "You have to go."
Do you think?
Yes, I absolutely, really do.
Tell me
think
more.
that. Because he wants to keep a foot in. He wants to know what's going on. B, he'd want to know what people were saying about him. And he's always said that, and Fergie has said, the girls are my passport. And they are Andrew's only passport into the royal family now. And I'm absolutely sure that he persuaded them. And they might have said, "Oh, Papa, we want to be with you." And he'd said, "No, I want you to go there. That's what's going to make me happy."
I think Ingrid's absolutely right. I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought about that myself. But I mean, I think she's absolutely right. Andrew wants to keep an eye on what's going on within the royal family,
Which is understandable. It's human nature, isn't it?
He's not invited, so he's not at the table anymore. So one of the first things that would have happened when they got back would be Andrew would be on the phone saying, "Right, who said what?"
Well, last Christmas, Beatrice actually went with her husband, Eduardo, and they went to the service and then they drove all the way back to Royal Lodge for lunch from Norfolk.
Because an outsider, it looks like that they've shown loyalty to the King ahead of Sarah
I think
and Andrew.
they've shown loyalty to... They've played it as they've been told to play it, but they've shown loyalty to both.
Wow. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to delve into that in the next couple of weeks. Because, as I say, I think it's a big year for Beatrice and Eugenie. I think, they could be key in this relationship, keeping Andrew almost close to the King, being a little conduit between the two. So I think it's going to be fascinating.
And I also think that, in a way, that's in a way what the King wants. He wants to keep them close. I mean, I'm sure he feels, because he's a very caring person, I'm sure he feels wretched about Andrew and having to disown him, basically, which he has. I'm sure he feels wretched about it.
I did notice on Christmas Day that I saw the King... I did notice on Christmas Day that I saw Prince Andrew leaving Royal Lodge just before the King's speech. He didn't sit down and watch it, which is fascinating.
Oh, very.
But anyway, quick fire questions, guys. We've got to be quick on this. So, what should be the King's or Andrew Mountbatten's New Year resolution?
I think just to keep quiet.
Keep quiet, Andrew.
Just keep quiet. Well, I mean, he does keep quiet. I think he should do as he's told. Do as he's told.
I disagree with you on that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I think, Andrew, it's time for him to fess up and actually tell the world now what actually went on with Epstein and we've had so many files come out now. you know, it just adds to the belief of the majority of the population that something, you know, did go on with the former Prince Andrew. And I think he should actually come clean now and say what it was, what happened. I said to you before, the one question I would love to have answered was when the Queen and Prince Charles and Prince William sat down with him in the first place and said, are these allegations true? What did he say? You know, if he told them the same as he's telling the rest of the world, then they believed him. If he told them the truth, then they're complicit in the whole scenario.
Well, I disagree. I disagree. There's no way that Andrew is ever going to talk to
he's
them.
not.
And I think I've said this to you before, Matt. There's no way his lawyers would let him.
No.
Look what a mess he made of Newsnight. His lawyers would say, whatever happens, Mr. Mountbatten-Windsor, you are not going
it is the
to
royal,
do this.
It's the royal version of Omerta.
Fascinating. Next quick-fire question. As William and Catherine plan to carry out at least one engagement a month, celebrating the best of British, what British institution would you like to see them back?
Well, I think they should just carry on doing what they're doing. I mean, they're backing enough British institutions already. So, for me, just keep on trucking. It's simple as that.
I agree with Charlie. It's just, I think they're doing so well. I don't think there's an ounce of criticism there.
They are representing Britain.
They are. I mean, like, maybe they could represent the car industry.
The Japanese car industry?
No, the old car. Oh, no, because that would be anti the government, because they want everyone to have electric cars. So whatever they do, I think it would be very difficult to do better than what they're doing now.
And finally, if the King has any downtime when he is in the US for his state visit in April, what must-do experience do you think he should do?
As we've discussed already, he's not going to have that much downtime, to be perfectly honest, to go around and do the sort of visits, you know, like Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, Central Park. He's not going to have that. He's not going to have that opportunity. It'd be nice to do it. I mean, when we were covering the royals and following them around the world, we went to various places, but it was only because the royal themselves went there as part of a job, like the Taj Mahal, you know, Petra, all these sort of places. We were only there because the royals were there, so they don't have that much downtime.
I think he should talk to the American farmers. That is his big thing, is farming, and farmers are in a lot of trouble here. And I think it would be great to see him talking to sort of the land people of America. I don't mean the oil barons, I mean the actual farmers, and see what it's like there and what their problems are.
So not Disneyland or the bridges in Madison County?
No.
All right. Thanks, guys. It's been really interesting today. I thought it was some great points, and I really appreciate you both coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments as usual, and remember to subscribe to us here on our new Royal Exclusive YouTube channel for the latest on all things royal. And we'll see you next week.